Hello and welcome to the Library Connection. I'm Summer Newman Ernest, and joining me today is Mrs. Denise Haskins. She's been in the community for a while, doing wonderful things with her job, with her husband's job. We just want to get to know you a little bit more for those people who might not know you. First of all, where are you from?
Well, I'm from all over. I actually grew up in Birmingham. My father worked at U.S. Steel, and we lived in a community called Midfield.
Okay.
And then he decided some years later that he would go in the ministry full time.
Oh, wow.
And so we started kind of a journey of moving around different places and lived in Pelham and Jemison and Hueytown. And unfortunately, he passed away when I was 15. Mm-hmm. And so my mother was left a widow at 42 with these girls to raise, and so we moved back to our family home in Midfield. And so I started out there, and I ended up there in school, and then when I went to the University of Montevallo and I met James, he was a baseball player. Yeah, and so I fell in love with a baseball player.
The jock.
Yeah. But then he decided that he felt a calling into the ministry, and I asked him, "Are you sure?"
Right.
Yeah. And so anyway, now we're 38 years later, and so I've lived in a lot of different places in our ministry.
I bet.
The first move was to Turkeytown, and so when we got that call,
And I've never heard of Turkeytown.
No, I haven't either.
Where is that?
It's up near Gadsden.
Okay, so it's in Alabama.
Yes. And then James was in seminary at that time at Emory, and so he drove back and forth from school to Turkeytown and was home only on the weekends. And we had our daughter Elaine, so she's been with us from the very beginning,
Right.
of our ministry. And then we moved to Fort Payne.
I have family from Fort Payne.
Oh, you do?
Yes,
I didn't realize that. Oh, I did. I think maybe one time we did talk about that.
I love Fort Payne. What a beautiful.
Isn't it?
I think it's just the prettiest place in the
It
state.
is. It really is a pretty place. And at that time, all the sock mills were booming.
Yes.
And so, people in our church had sock mills.
Right.
And
Everybody owned a sock mill.
Yeah. And my students at Fort Payne High School all worked in the sock mills.
Right.
In fact, it was hard to, convince them to stay in school because they were making as much money as I made teaching school working in a sock mill.
In the sock mills.
But now we know what happened to, all of that.
Of course.
But anyway, when people would get new sewing machines in, we'd go visit their sock mills and see those. And then from there we moved to Crossville up on Sand Mountain.
Right.
Well,
Trade days at
Collinsville, and then a lot of people had chicken houses. So when they would get a new delivery of baby chicks, we'd go take the children to go see the new baby
what were you
chicks.
teaching at this point? What?
I taught English.
Okay.
8th grade and 11th grade at Fort Payne High School, some business education, and even when we moved to Crossville, I drove back to Fort Payne.
And taught there. Mm-hmm. So it's always been a secondary level.
Yes.
Me too. I prefer the older.
Yes, I do too. I do too. So then from there, we moved to Highlands Methodist Church on Southside in Birmingham.
Beautiful church.
And we lived in Mountain Brook. So we went from our chicken farmers to, the next week our son was taking golf lessons at Birmingham Country Club, So I actually had to go shopping for some new clothes for them before we could go to church on Sunday. So that was a nice time for our children as far as academics and sports and really getting a good, rich background and foundation, and so we all really enjoyed that. Then we moved to Tuscaloosa, and our daughter Elaine graduated from Hillcrest High School.
Right.
And then we moved to Alexander City, and our son Brian was in high school and played basketball and baseball, and I actually drove to Sylacauga and taught at Sylacauga High School.
And so what time period was this?
That was 1998 and 1999.
I just missed you. I graduated in 96.
Did you? Okay. Well, actually some of my friends now were my students.
Right.
Leslie Lucas was one of my students.
Right.
Yeah, I taught her. And that was such a neat discovery to come back, and find her again. And then my department head, Laura Brown and Glenda Smithwick. And
amazing English department at Sylacauga High School.
Yes,
What a legacy
great.
there.
And I think I actually at one time taught in the classroom that had been Faye Simpkins. I can remember a lot of materials having her name,
Right.
On them and everything. So that was a great time. From Alexander City, we moved to Hoax Bluff in Gadsden.
Okay.
And, every place is different. And I look back at it, and every place had a purpose.
Right.
And I always say that move was for me. And that is because our son was playing baseball at Jacksonville State.
Right.
And so we had driven his freshman year back and forth to JSU, constantly
right.
for ball games.
Right.
So when we moved to Hoax Bluff, my teaching job was at Jacksonville High School.
Oh, wow.
And so every day when I went to work, I drove past the baseball field.
You could see.
And I could just see.
How wonderful is that?
Yes, it was great. So
Right.
on the way home, I would stop by and watch practice. Brian would bring a bunch of guys home,
And then he loved that.
for church on Sunday
Right.
and eat lunch with us. We had to invest in an extra crock pot.
to feed those hungry boys.
Yes, he had 2 Canadian pitchers.
Oh, wow.
Who could eat whatever was in one crock pot all alone. So we had to get a second one to feed them. But Brian lived in Jacksonville, but we were right there nearby, through his graduation. And it was just a wonderful time to be right there. And he got to play baseball with his best friend from Tuscaloosa. And so, it's just amazing how God weaves everything together. And to a beautiful purpose. And that was a great time to be there close to him. Okay, from there we moved back to Tuscaloosa. And what's in Tuscaloosa. Right. And so, wherever we've lived, we've become a part of the community.
Of course.
And so we enjoyed walking to the quad on game days and
Right.
just kind of hanging out with people, although I'm not a football enthusiast. James is.
Of course.
A Tennessee fan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Well, Tennessee's my second team. My dad
Oh,
went
it
to
is?
Tennessee.
Oh, good. So, anyway, we would go along and, go
Right.
down to the campus and walk around and hang out. And it is great to be in a university town.
It is, and youthful and exciting and always something going on.
So, then from there we moved to Valley. And, Valley reminds me a lot of Sylacauga.
Right.
In that it was a textile town.
Yes.
And they kind of had to learn how to govern themselves when the mills closed.
Right.
Because the mills, had run everything in the town. And so they bounced back.
Right.
Built a city hall, built a great gym with an indoor pool, a great sports complex. And so, I kind of think of the two towns
Right,
as,
you have to adjust.
Yeah, have to
Exactly.
adjust. And while we were there, I worked at the Circle of Care, which is a nonprofit organization similar to SAFE.
Okay.
And I taught in the GED program.
Wonderful. So you had already retired from teaching in the public education
Yes,
realm.
I retired when we moved to Valley.
Okay.
And James asked me what I was going to do, and I said, I'll do something. I don't know what it's going to be.
You'll find something.
I'll find something.
Because you weren't busy at all, of course.
No,
I'm sure. Yeah.
no. But I applied for a variety of jobs, and I said, we'll just see what happens.
Right.
And I actually learned about this job before we ever even moved to Valley. So we moved in like on June 15th, and I started to work at the Circle of Care on July the 1st.
Oh, wow.
So it was just great, and had about 20 students a year get a GED.
That's wonderful.
So rewarding. I felt that I was seeing some of the students that I had in high school that didn't make it.
Right, that you couldn't, but you had a chance. It was a second chance almost.
Yeah, second
for
chance.
them and for you. Right.
So it was great to be, to be a part of that. But all of our family has been wonderful in wherever we've lived, they come and visit us,
Right.
especially my sisters.
And so how many sisters do you have?
I have 3 sisters,
Oh, wow.
and they love Sylacauga.
We all do.
So, my birthday is Christmas Day,
Okay.
and so they asked me what I wanted for my birthday a few weeks before Christmas, and I said, I want you to come to Sylacauga and spend the weekend and go to church to all 3 services.
Oh, wow.
So we have our favorite stores in Sylacauga, and so we got out and shopped around and played around a little bit, and then, the idea of going to church on Sunday for 3 times sounded
That's a lot.
good. Sounded good in December.
Right.
But Sunday morning, it wasn't quite as easy.
As easy.
But once we got up and got going, they made it through all 3 services.
Wow.
And so they really enjoyed being here. So they loved coming here. They loved visiting in Valley. Everywhere we've lived, they've come to see us.
Well, you can tell there's such a strong bond. I love to see pictures, or when you're wearing matching T-shirts.
Yes.
I'm all about that. I think that is so cute. I love it.
We have T-shirts for all occasions.
Yeah.
And we also have been known to do a lot of skits and performances.
I love it.
Not high quality.
Sure, but entertaining
But
nonetheless.
entertaining. We have been nuns before. We've dressed as babies.
No.
We've done a skit to Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
That is so great.
With Daddy dying early, and a short time after that, finding out our baby sister was a very brittle diabetic, and then my mother's mother died within a short time after that. It was a hard few years.
I'm sure, and you had to lean upon one another.
We did, we
Right.
did. And also with our dad being in the ministry and moving from place to place, our friends changed.
Right.
But we always had each other.
Thank goodness.
Yes, yes.
Well, that's the one thing I know, being a pastor's wife. And so your husband, James Haskins, is the pastor at First United Methodist Church here in Sylacauga. That I can't imagine what a difficult, which I guess you were used to it, but moving so many places, and also for your children, because that can be a traumatic time, in middle school or high school, and changing schools. And so I'm sure that you have to be resilient and a positive attitude about that, because that can be quite trying, I'm sure.
It is. But I feel that I've had some good role models in my grandmother and my mother. My grandmother, who lived over in Clay County, her husband died. My grandfather died when my mother was 12, and my grandmother had a farm and raised chickens.
Oh, my.
And so, at the time she died, she owned property, she had bonds, she, left a legacy of strength and resilience.
What a strong role model.
Yeah, for my mother.
Right.
And then when my daddy died, my mother did not even write checks. She didn't know anything about running a household. And so by the time she died, she owned a business in Westover. She was on the city council.
That's great.
And so I think she learned from her mother that you just have to bounce back.
Right.
That you have to find a way to get up every day and, move forward. And so I think both of those women showed me strength. But yes, it has been hard sometimes for our children, but it's also been a source of strength because they have friends all over the state, everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere. And it's rare for us to go anywhere and not know somebody. I mean, not long ago, our son was pumping gas in Gadsden, and how ironic now that that's where he lives, and that's
Right.
where we lived when we had him.
Right.
But he was at a gas station pumping gas, and someone came up to him and said, "You have to be the son of James Haskins."
Because he looks just like him.
Yes. And he said, "Yeah, that's my daddy."
Right.
So, and a lot of his patients, he's a physical therapist, and a lot of his patients that he goes into their homes, James was their minister, either at Turkeytown or another little church, Liberty, or, at Hokes Bluff First Methodist. And so it's just...
That's wonderful.
Again.
And I can imagine the lives just that you've touched alone, because being a teacher, you touch so many lives, and then even being a pastor's wife. I think back to when I was a youth at First Methodist and the ministers there that had such a great influence, and their wives, and you're still just so connected to. And so what a wonderful legacy that you've already left with all of these different people and throughout the state. I think that's wonderful.
Well, it's really neat, and I know sometimes people don't like Facebook because drama and all
Right.
that, but I don't look at it that way. That I've reconnected with students from Fort Payne and other schools where I've taught,
Right.
and I never would have done that.
How would you
without it.
otherwise?
And
Right.
so that's my way to communicate with my sisters and my nieces,
Right.
so I love that there are those connections. Elaine grew up going to Camp Sumatanga, went to Birmingham Southern,
Right.
and so because of that, she does have all these good, rich connections, all over the place. So I think they would tell you that, yes, sometimes it was very hard being the new person.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But then it was also good to have a fresh start,
Sure.
to go somewhere,
Right.
and to adapt.
Right.
And so that's what we wanted them to do. And I wanted church to be a pleasant experience for them. So I tried to, I guess, protect them or shield them from anything I thought that might be hurtful for them to know.
Right.
And so I wanted them to love church and to go to church as adults. And I'm very grateful that they're both active in their churches.
That's wonderful.
Now. So,
Miss Denise, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, I want to talk about what you're doing now.
Okay, let's
here
do
in the
that.
community and get into more of that. So we'll be back in just a moment.
Okay.
In central Alabama, 9,100 kids face going to bed hungry tonight. Hunger doesn't take a day off. There are kids right here, right now, that don't know where they'll get their next meal. Join Alabama Childhood Food Solutions and help put an end to childhood hunger in central Alabama. Make a difference. Donate today, by mail or online, to help ACFS feed hungry kids. There's no better time to share than now. Their next meal could come from you.
Huddle up and huddle in to the newly renovated, family-friendly, smoke-free Huddle House. Stop by and enjoy our new updated look on Highway 280 in Sylacauga. We have the same great food, and as always, you can enjoy any meal anytime, from breakfast to lunch to dinner, or even a midnight snack. Add one of our signature waffles to your meal for that ultimate dining experience.
Huddle up and huddle in.
That's right, ladies. Freshly remodeled and smoke-free, any meal anytime. Highway 280 in Sylacauga, it's the Huddle House.
At Marble City Pharmacy, we're more than just a drugstore. Our gift shop boasts some of the most unique treasures you'll find anywhere. Come in and browse the vast selection of jewelry, purses, clothing accessories, and crafts. Let our friendly staff help you find that special card or gift for any occasion. Our dollar wall features selected sale items, and we stock a wide variety of specialty items. And if it is a drugstore you need, Marble City Pharmacy was named the 2015 McKesson National Pharmacy of the Year. Visit us today at Marble City Pharmacy.
Since 1935, the Collins family has been the automobile business in Sylacauga. Bobby and Anderson Collins carry on that tradition today at Stop and Shop Auto Sales. Select from late model cars, trucks, and SUVs. And our vehicles do not go on the lot until they are thoroughly inspected by our experienced mechanics. At Stop and Shop Auto Sales, we offer a 30-day warranty on all our inventory. Family owned and operated for 4 generations. Stop and Shop Auto Sales, 230 West 1st Street in Sylacauga.
Hello and welcome back to the Library Connection. We've been talking today with Mrs. Denise Haskins. She is the wife of James Haskins, who is the pastor here at First Methodist Church in Sylacauga. And we've been talking about her wonderful history of moving around with that job, her educational background, her family background, and teaching English, and even taught here in Sylacauga High School. And of course at the library, we're excited to see that because I know that you've cultivated the love of reading for so many people throughout this state. But I want to talk about what you're doing now, since you're retired from public education, but you're still working full-time, I know.
Yes. Well, when we first moved here, I didn't work for the first 8 months.
So you got a tiny break.
A little break, and I didn't
for
really know.
For the first time ever.
Really, for the first time ever, I didn't know what to do with myself, and so once I unpacked our belongings and got settled in, it's kind of like, okay, what do I do now? So, I floundered for a little bit, and then I met with a very strong lady in our community to seek her advice and encouragement. And so I met Dr. Shirley.
Oh, yes.
And she was a great encouragement, gave me a wonderful tour of the library and told me all about all the marble pieces and a lot of Sylacauga history. And we had a great long visit. And she gave me good advice and some direction. And so I got up and decided it was time to get busy. So I volunteered with End Hunger here in Sylacauga. I volunteered at the Chamber of Commerce, and I got involved with some mission projects at church. And then around that time is when we met Chris and Leslie Morris. And I told Chris, if you need me anytime, to help with Leslie, sit with Leslie, help with the boys, I'll be happy to do it. And, I didn't hear from him. And so James told him one day, please call her. She needs something to do. And so finally he did. Let's give this a try. And so I went to their house, and he stayed at home and worked in the yard, and I just sat with Leslie. And so, a friendship was born, a relationship, and then it became more than I could do by myself. So I enlisted the help of some people in our church, and then more people, and my sisters.
Right.
And so it has just become a wonderful ministry and relationship, and James tells me that that's my ministry.
It really is, and it's something that people don't even realize. But everything that you have to orchestrate with that, I know, and getting those text messages that you really, I know they couldn't do it without you. And what a blessing that you were placed right in their pathway, because they depend upon you so much, and you're such a blessing to them. I know.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your help.
Well, it's just a tiny bit.
That I can call on when I get in a pinch. And,
Right.
and there are people like that. And there are many, many people who have stepped up. And our church, has taken meals to them every week for almost 3 years. The anniversary of Leslie's accident is actually tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
And so for 3 years, this church has been very faithful to them, support them financially. The kindergarten program, Bridges. They have just felt, the embracing of the entire community. And so it's just wonderful that we have a ministry right here at home. That there are foreign missions.
Sure,
There
but
are
there's a huge mission field.
But there's a mission field right here in Sylacauga. Several
I agree.
Opportunities.
Well, and
here.
I think that's one of the most important things about having a hometown community church, because it's an extended family
It is.
that's there to support you, as opposed to, where you're one in a million and you sign your name and that's all they know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's something that cannot be replicated, and in times of need, especially,
Yes.
that's when people step up. And
Yes.
so it's wonderful.
I agree. I have kind of a philosophy about that. I like it at Christmas when I read the shop local
Right.
slogans, but I believe that you play local, you shop local, you worship local, you live
I
your
agree.
life here in
I
this
agree.
town. And that's
Right.
one of the benefits of this little town, is that
Right.
it does have a lot to offer.
Right. And the more you give, the more you receive.
That is the truth. That is the truth. And as an outsider coming in, it's easy to see what the community has to offer,
Right.
and to celebrate those things and participate. And just wherever we've lived, we've always, tried to get involved and
Sure.
and do that. Like, James is in Kiwanis, and
Right.
we participate in the art council
Right.
and
Right.
just different things around the community that we want to be a part of, because we are in the church, but not just because that, but we're in this community.
Right, and you care about the community.
We care about the community. But anyway, so I was volunteering here, there, and everywhere, and I had also been in touch with another very strong lady in conversation about working. And so one day Margaret called and said that there was a new grant and something that might work for me. And so I sent in my resume and application, had an interview, and Patsy told me that they would make a decision by the end of the week, and I didn't hear anything by the end of the week.
Oh,
so
no.
I thought, well, okay, so that wasn't
that
it.
door.
Yeah, close that door. Let's move on. And then a few days later, she called to tell me, that I had that job, which is Parents as Teachers, parent educator with SAFE. It is a wonderful grant in which we go into the homes of pregnant teens, young moms, and work with the mothers, work with the babies, parenting skills, child development, family well-being. And I have 12 clients. And once again, it's kind of, I'm using my skills from teaching in the high school,
Right.
being a grandmother, being a mother, all of that into one. So it's
Right.
really a neat relationship to have with these girls.
What a perfect fit, and what a perfect time too to get in there, because that's the most important, I think, pivotal time is when they're young. And sometimes I know, being a high school teacher, you think, oh, it's too late. They've already, all this has happened.
Yes,
and so
yes.
to be able to get in there and to teach those young parents sometimes how to parent, and I think, with the library, that there's so many wonderful programs that they offer as well for young children. And I tell people all the time, and I know First Methodist, the kindergarten uses it, especially the summer series program, that it's a free way to not only bring education, entertainment, but also to meet other young mothers or to meet people, kids the same age. And so I think that there's so much going on in the community, whether it be with SAFE or the library, that's really trying to target these areas and areas of need.
And one of the things that we do through Parents as Teachers, in addition to teaching these young moms that you are your child's first teacher,
Right.
that it's not up to the kindergarten teacher or a minister or a Sunday school teacher
Right.
to teach your child. You are your child's first teacher.
Right.
And it actually begins while you're carrying your baby.
Yes.
At that time, you sing to your baby, you read to your baby.
Right.
And then once the child is here, we try to link the parent to community resources. So I do refer them to the library, to library programs, to community events, for them to get their family involved, to feel that they're a part of something.
Sure.
That's very important in that family, to build that strength and that bond with a community. And so Sylacauga is a great place to do that because there are so many things that it offers. We also have Parents as Teachers in Clay County and Coosa County.
Wow.
In those rural areas, it's a little bit harder to link people to resources.
Right.
And so I'm blessed to be in South Talladega County, where we are rich in opportunities, and just SAFE alone offers so much to the community.
Sure.
Transportation, GED classes, hippie, crib.
Things that people don't even realize.
That they don't even realize. It's just a gem sitting there of treasures for the entire community, and not just for the community, but SAFE itself is a family.
Right.
I love going to our staff meetings. I mean, who likes to go to a staff meeting?
Right.
But I do, because Margaret makes it feel like a family.
Right.
Every person in the room has an opportunity to speak up and tell about your job or tell about your family, a celebration, a sorrow, whatever you want to tell. It's like a big family around one table.
Well, and I think that that's just a testament to its success. It's just like the library. I say, of course it's a beautiful facility. Yes, we have wonderful programming, but it's staff. And under Dr. Shirley Spears is where it begins, because if you don't have that foundation, then what is it? It's just a shell, an empty building. Well, I know beyond SAFE that there's a lot going on at First United Methodist Church, that there's a wide array of activities and programs. Do you want to go over just some of those for just about everybody?
Yes. First of all, we have 3 services on Sunday morning. 9 o'clock is a contemporary service with a praise band in the fellowship hall. 10 o'clock is the grounded service. It's downstairs, coffee house style service. Dawson Brown provides the music. Chuck Terrell, Carolyn Goza, and James, deliver the sermons.
Right.
And then the 11 o'clock service is the traditional service in the beautiful sanctuary.
Gorgeous.
And I love all 3 services.
Right.
And last week when my sisters were here, at the end of the day, I said, okay, if you lived here, which service would you attend?
Right.
And each of them said, well, I like this service because of the music.
This, right.
I like this because of that.
Right.
I could go to any one of them. And I enjoy going to all 3. Every service is different.
Right.
Every service has a different group of people.
It does.
And so I would encourage even our own members
to
go to multiple services to see.
Well, and I think that's the neatest thing, is that there is so much that's offered and for different people. And not only is it just the worship services, that I know there's a lot of outreach, and what's I'm partial to, of course, is the children's activities and choir, and that it's open to anyone. You don't have to be a member of First United Methodist Church. There's Sunday and Wednesday activities. And of course, long history, Dr. Ted Spears, the First United Methodist Kindergarten, which is where I went to kindergarten, and it's still such a wonderful program and just a jewel for our city.
I love walking down the hall and seeing the handprints on the wall, kind of the Hall of Fame. So many people in Sylacauga went to kindergarten there.
Wow.
Even Chris and Leslie Morris were in kindergarten together there. I've heard them tell that story. And then their beautiful wedding picture that was made on the you know, that tile at the front
Right.
door of the sanctuary. That's such a tradition here in Sylacauga. And so, but yes, there are many other activities, a great youth program with Chuck, and